let me do something I've never done before, and then I'll talk from the heart. I've shared from the heart with everyone who I've introduced, but I want you guys to actually take a professional look, a little bit at Doc Springer. And Doc, before I bring you on, here's what I did. I'm gonna breeze through it real quick for you so you can see. Here's yours. I put a little presentation together this morning of your stuff. So when you're ready, you can say next slide, and then you can brief through what you're doing. So there you go, snapshot. But let me tell you guys a little bit about Doc Springer, and then I'll talk from the heart so you can know professionally who is on with us this morning to help us through, right? She is one of the most amazing relationship experts. See, it doesn't say amazing there, but I know that she is. She's a trauma expert. And you see that last part, trusted doc, like I told you guys yesterday. And Marines, we hate shrinks. And you saw Vinny was laughing. We hate shrinks. No one gets affection from Marines when it comes to docs at all, except for Doc Springer. She's the only trusted one that we know there. So let's talk a little bit about where Doc Springer comes from. So Dr. Shauna Springer is a graduate of Harvard University and is one of the world's leading experts. See, she's so humble. She said one of the world's, but she is the leading expert. I'm just saying, because she is. When it comes to PTSD, trauma, and moral injury among veterans, she's actually one of the folks who pretty much somewhat coined that phrase. She co-hosts a weekly podcast on topics and collaborations with Military Times. So I can read this over and over, but let me just tell you guys some more. That this young lady, my friend, a mentor, she knows the ins and outs of the mind and how it relates to moral injuries, but more so today, she's going to be talking about that and how things relate to us with COVID. I think today, many of us are going to walk away understanding and have some tangible tools to help us kind of get over. We are already doing some of the stuff she's going to talk about as a culture, but she's going to tell you more how to pull your team together. So without any further ado, my dear Acera family, I'm going to put Doc Springer and pinpoint her video because she deserves to be center. Let's see, spotlight video, boom. She deserves to be in the spotlight. So my dear friends, without any further ado, look at that very trustworthy face. Doc Springer, I'm telling you, you guys, you have no idea how much affection I have for this lady. Look at the top of her shelf too. That's one of her books, Warrior, which she's the only person that truly understands the mind of warriors and how to actually appreciate them. Her next book, Beyond. Listen, I'll just have her tell you more about herself, but I'm just so excited. I cannot shut up. And you guys already know it. I'm normally so calm and reserved, but when it comes to Doc Springer, it's a whole new ball game. So Doc Springer, welcome to the Acera family. We're going to give you some love and excitement. And when you're ready, let me know. I can share the screen so we can get your message with everyone today. I'm recording this so that we can keep it in our hearts as long as possible together. So without any further ado, dear friends, Dr. Shauna Springer, the one and only, as we know it, the trusted doc. Floor is yours, my dear.
Oh my goodness. That was very kind and excruciatingly painful in equal measure. Being put on mute while you talked about me and gave me that introduction was like, oh, you know about me that I just, kind of want to let the work show up as it will. But thank you as well for that really kind introduction, and appreciate that support. Absolutely. And excited to be with you today. So here's my sit rep. There's a lot of fire and smoke outside the window. My husband said he's monitoring it. My sister texted me and said, "Are you evacuating because of the wildfires?" Not right now. So my husband's got my back while I'm focused on us. And if I need to evacuate it, forgiveness is requested, but I'll have to do that to protect my kiddos. All right. So what I want to talk to you about today is about really what's happening right now across our society, and how in an interesting way, maybe that I didn't predict or see, a lot of the work that I've done in supporting military service members and veterans has really become relevant to many people across society, because we're all experiencing levels of trauma that are unprecedented. And when people that have been to war And people that have survived unimaginable traumas say things to me like, I've never been through anything quite like this before. It really stands out to me. So the first thing that I wanted to really emphasize is that anxiety and trauma can go viral, and it can operate in a way that can be transmitted both within ourselves in an insidious way that we don't always detect, and it can also be transmitted socially. And we set the conditions for how anxiety is transmitted both within us and to other people. So let's talk about that for a minute. So the trauma that's affecting all of us, it's sometimes the same in some fundamental ways. And in many ways, it's going to have a differing impact depending on who we are, our background, and how the trauma hits each of us as individuals. So for example, the way that it's often the same for many of us is that even if we've continued to be fortunate enough to continually have a job, for many of us that relationship network that gives our lives structure and meaning has suddenly been lost. Um, there's your kiddo, so cute. So the structure that gave our lives meaning in terms of even the incidental contacts that we had with people, if you go to the local coffee shop or go out to a restaurant or walk around your town and you run into people that you know and you have these pleasurable feelings of connection as you move throughout your community where you live and work, all of that was suddenly cut off in a way that reminds me a lot of the emotional amputation that is the core trauma of military transition. So people who are in the military, they're not co-workers, they are family. And when they come out of the military through transition, there's a kind of sudden cutoff of those relationships that give our lives structure and meaning. And COVID has done the same thing to many of us. On top of that, many of us have lost jobs that give us an identity and a purpose. And many of us have just had the rhythm of our life thrown into total disarray as school has become 100% virtual. We've lost childcare that we depend on to do our jobs. There have been many layers of trauma on top of societal trauma around racial division and pain around that old evil that is just now being resurfaced and that needs a look. It's really affecting some of us very, very deeply. Should be affecting all of us, but so this trauma that we're facing, I think the first thing is to recognize these hidden impacts. And to give you a specific example, one of the things that people often feel but don't appreciate is the level at which our basic priorities are often in conflict. And we all live our lives according to these basic priorities or rules of engagement that we're not even aware of much of the time. So for example, one of the basic priorities that many of us might have is, I earn my keep. The work I do, provides for me and my family. I earn my keep. So having employment and being able to earn our keep is important to many of us. At the same time, another basic priority that many of us have, a primal call, if you will, is to protect those that we love, including our family and our kids. So, I'm feeling that actually right now in the moment. I want to give this talk to you and I will give this talk to you, but there's in the back of my mind, I'm going to be playing this tape of, am I going to get my husband coming in here and telling me we need to evacuate because of the wildfire? Because that's another one of my basic priorities is protect my family, protect my kids who are at home with me right now, my husband. So with COVID, one of the traumas that's happened is that these basic priorities are often in conflict for many of us. If we go out into the world or take on positions that require us to be around other people or physically present, or we have essential jobs or jobs that require physical presence, then we're honoring the first priority, but does it have conflict with the second priority if we might bring home risk to our families in terms of this invisible infectious enemy that we're fighting in this war for today? Maybe so. So if that's happening and there's that internal conflict, what you don't label and understand has the ability to ambush you. So becoming consciously aware of the friction that is in us psychologically around the layers of trauma that we're experiencing is very important to get a vantage point on it that allows us to move forward. Trauma can also be transmitted socially. Shame and trauma are socially transmitted emotions, and the way that we behave can transmit to other people around us. One of the interesting and tragic things that's happened is that we've lost the ability to communicate, in many cases, with our full expression and our full intent. So I understand and agree with the health requirement of protecting each other by wearing masks, but unfortunately, when you go out in the world to get groceries or do some exercise in the woods or whatever, when you see other people with a mask on their face, all you see is their eyes. And it doesn't allow us to do what we do as social creatures and decode facial expression. If somebody's smiling at us or if there's warmth, that could look like hostility from someone who's in a mask, whose eyes are just crinkled up, So being able to have conversations and meet each other's gaze, I've noticed this has changed. I don't know if others of you have noticed this, but we have been taught by the media, and with good reason, there's a real threat here. This is, not something that is without data, but we've been taught to treat others as though they might be a source of threat. They might be contagious. And as that has happened, we've started to act more like people in chronically war-torn countries who don't look at each other in the face, who don't connect with each other in the same way, who don't have the same nonverbal expression, and don't move towards each other, but stay back. Just a minute, someone's knocking on my office door. What is it, babe? Yeah, baby, I'm doing a Zoom thing. Okay, not an emergency. Just a kiddo asking permission to eat something with sugar in it. They don't understand Zoom meetings. Okay, anyway, thanks for your grace. So the way that anxiety can be transmitted socially should also be something that we should become consciously aware of. The way that we do it, the way that we receive it, so that we can neutralize that. Because if we don't appreciate how we may be acting like the virus in our own ways, then we may be transmitting that anxiety to other people. One of the things about anxiety, when I talk about, we create the conditions for its spread, one of the things about anxiety is that it exists in proportion to what we don't know. So the greater the level of unknowns, typically the greater the level of anxiety. And so again, if we can be aware of what have we lost or what is now unknown, what are these hidden things that we're fearful about, whether it's the future, maybe how this will affect our kids' educations or their social development, how this will affect our own career prospects, becoming consciously aware of those thoughts and those impacts is where we start to have some ability to move against them rather than letting them rule and dominate us. Okay, Doc Bone, if you could go, let's see, to the slide that says, yeah, perfect. Okay, you got it. Anxiety impacts our brains and behaviors, very much so. Somebody coined the term, it's like, why didn't I think of that? COVID brain, just put a term on it, COVID brain. COVID brain is basically what I call in my work, chronic threat response would be probably a related term to COVID brain. So in some of my media work, I've been writing about chronic threat response. This is where we have this sort of locked in state of being in survival mode, where everything becomes filtered through fight or flight. And so I found that many high achieving people, many corporate leaders, they have conflicts in their basic priorities, like many of us do. For example, do I keep the company afloat? Do I let people go? Do I take insurance away from people if I can't afford it to try and keep bailing out the ship? I take care of my people that work for me. I'm proud of that. how do I balance that with the priority of keeping the company afloat? So there's this kind of moral anguish going on at this sometimes underappreciated level for many leaders. And many leaders are feeling chronic threat response. So that is the feelings of being chronically, vigilant to threats. Often disrupted sleep comes with this. Often surges of anxiety that seem to ambush you out of nowhere, or surges of irritability. Kind of similar concept. I find that many men show anger attacks instead of anxiety, but it traces back to the same thing if you go upstream, which is an overwhelming amount of anxiety or adrenaline. And then there's also the startle response can be heightened when we're in a state of chronic threat response. And difficulties concentrating is interestingly a hyperarousal symptom that is part of that chronic threat response cluster of symptoms. So maybe somebody else calls that COVID brain. I would call it chronic threat response, to be aware that it is having an impact and that our brains are less cognitively efficient the more things we have running at the same time. Think about your brain as a computer. And if your computer has a lot of files running at the same time, it's going to be less efficient. And so getting pulled out of, your train of thought by concerns and learning how to regulate yourself and hold your center, even if there's a fire outside or whatever, just trying to stay focused, it's challenging. It's very challenging for many of us these days. Anxiety also, in addition to impacting our brain functions and our cognition, makes us risk averse. It makes us tending towards being safe and taking the safe choice instead of seeing opportunities that may be there. We miss all kinds of opportunities because the nature of anxiety in that chronic threat response is to create tunnel vision. It is designed to focus us on the threat that's right in front of us. And we lose our peripheral vision, and we lose, our left and right laterals become tight as we focus on the threat right in front of us. So as a result, we often miss opportunities that are there in spite of or because of an alteration in our situation or environment. We'll talk about some examples of that in a minute here. Red teaming. Doc Bowen, you might have come across this term before. Don't know if you have. Some Marines have. I suspect you have. You're pretty well read as an understatement. Do you want to pipe in here and talk about what you understand red teaming to be, and I'll back you up?
What I was thinking, Doc, is if we go with your frame of it, and then I'll give some examples of it, because I want to use your frameology so that the minds are set that way, and I can use a few examples.
Sure. Okay. So in the Marine Corps and the Army, I'm sure other branches as well, but I'm most close to Marines and soldiers. And so in those branches, the concept of a red team came out of work with General Amos and his team. They gave me a copy of the original Marine Corps Red Team Handbook. And the concept really stuck with me because I think at some deep level, I've always been a red teamer. And people would just say, well, you always see the thing that other people don't see, or you always try and poke holes in other people's logic or bring a new perspective. But really what locked in for me is that in tactical simulations, when people are training to go to war, there's a blue team and a red team, and they're friendly adversaries. The blue team goes into that tactical simulation, and the red team is the friendly adversary that plays the opponent, that is designed to identify weaknesses in the blue team's approach. And so this has been taken from that and adopted as a business concept that has great value for corporate leaders. And the concept is to create a group of people that try with all of their might to tear down your idea or show the flaws in your logic or beat you to it, or basically outperform you based on their assumptions of what might be a better path. So they are a friendly adversary. And, for years when I would develop an insight or an approach that I thought, oh, this is going to be really, this has got it, in terms of a warrior-informed suicide prevention approach, for example. I would say who on my caseload is like the grittiest, most argumentative, most difficult to persuade kind of person. And then I would, in my next session with them, say, I have an idea and I'd like to run it by you and I want you to come at me with whatever you think the flaws in my logic are. So I've been doing that for years with people that were naturally inclined to be adversarial, maybe like me. My dad's a trial attorney. So I might have just been raised that way, because there's great value in bringing in friendly adversaries that can point to the holes in your logic and essentially enhance your thinking the way that iron sharpens iron. Doc Bowen, what would you add?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc Springer, for sharing that. And for everyone here who knows the folks that I connect with, my two red team members, one of them know that they are, the other one doesn't know, and he's going to find out now. But I use Vinny Cochran, who is my mentor. He's a major, by the way, after 30 years in the Marine Corps. So he's my red team member that I use for when I'm trying to model the morale, apathy of myself. And I'm not talking about morale as in morale. I'm talking about the morality of myself. He's that adversary. When I'm doing things, it's easy for me to get tunnel vision and focus on it and lose the morality of it. If something ever goes wrong, he's that person that has the intestinal fortitude enough to say, bro, you need to fix this. Or, he'll find a nice political way of sergeant majoring me out of that problem. And then, so my wife, Anna, she has been that most controversial person in my life that I know. So she's my red team member for integrity. There are times when I get so focused on something, if my action's starting to lead and where my integrity might be in jeopardy, she's that part of the integrity compass that kind of slaps me back into place. And that's the role that she plays. She knows her role. Vinny now finally knows his. And I always tell him like, hey, feel free to ever tell me whatever. And because I know he will. I have other members. I'm not telling them theirs on the call today, so they know. But those are my top two team members. Everyone else, I'll lead them to figure that out. But by you sharing it that way, I wanted it to be part of the framework that everyone kind of gets that awareness from on how to use what they may see as confrontational personalities in their lives as a form of good. So basically you're using that devil advocate for the purpose of that devil advocate type scenario portion in your life. I use it primarily for business now. On the military side, obviously that kept me focused and constantly vigilant. And I love those confrontational lance corporals. So I used to have them very, very well around me. And folks would be like, why didn't you not, writing this Marine up? I was like, well, no, I got my reasons why. I'm checking some other stuff out, because they were always the ones who poke holes in your plans.
Yeah.
You need to know what those holes are in order to make a full plan that will work. In business and life now, I guess I'll piece this one together. The word that's synonymous with one of my red team members, Fasana, is holistic, right? So when I'm looking at how do I bring everything holistically around, I'll always poke, and she'll be the one that'll talk about, like, Dr. O, that's not the holistic approach, or that's not the way. So, and then some of my red team members, that's what I use those members for, to help me become more of that well-rounded person with plans.
I'm watching Anna. She's nodding her head quite a bit.
She knows all the members of my red team, but most of the members of the red team do not know. She's also the person that keeps track with me and the members of the red team. So now we're basically letting some of the secrets out, Doc. So
there you go. This is what I didn't promise I wouldn't. As you were talking, though, I realized that someone we both care quite a good deal about, First Sergeant Kyola Lee, is part of my red team. And you can't describe him as grumpy, on any day of the week, but he's somebody who will serve it up straight. And I value that. So I always, when I write a book, I'm going to send him as much as he has time to read, in advance. Yeah. He's one of my trusted reviewers. I know I sent you a copy as a trusted reviewer of my Beyond the Military. And so I really value having people in my life that you've gotten to the other side of the social pleasantries with. You know, you've gotten to enough of a deep trust that they know they can come at you, and that you will perceive that as and you have to do it gently and with love, but as an act of friendship and an act of support. And so I think encouraging that and facilitating that with the people around us that are trustworthy is critical, and is a differentiator between who gets to become successful and who kind of stays stagnant in their profession and their career. Could we flip back to the nice slideshow that you had, please, into the antidote one? There you go. Okay, so the antidote to anxiety is connection. If I had one phrase that summarized everything that I do around suicide prevention specifically, it would be, when we connect, we survive. But when we connect, we also thrive beyond just surviving as well. I think one of the things I had a word for you on was that even leaders, I think especially leaders actually, need their tribe. And I have seen so many times in my work with military leaders, the tendency is to apply a different standard to themselves, to when they are struggling, when they are not okay, when they are having a challenge, whatever it is, a work situation, a home situation, they tend to isolate in many cases as a first instinct and say, well, let me get it together myself first, kind of privately, and then I'll come back to the unit when I've got it under control. And that's the wrong approach. It doesn't model for those that they lead what it looks like to be strong and brave enough to be human. And so I'm a big fan of let's kill the myth of the all-knowing, all-seeing corporate leader, military leader, whoever it is, and let's create space for us to be strong in a place of not knowing everything and in a time of unknowns. That we can acknowledge that we don't have all the answers. And what people are looking for, I think, from their leaders right now is the ability to hold trust, the ability to hold our center, and the ability to plan and take in feedback from sources around us, from our red team and from those that we work with and support, and to create a plan that makes sense, and then be facile and adaptable in changing that plan as we need to go. That's what, to me, leadership is in a time of massive anxiety. And bringing that tribe around you, not just your red team, but the people that you trust who will implement plans and ideas that that all of you would resource together, will give you that lateral vision that you wouldn't have otherwise. So having more eyes really gives you an expanded perspective on what opportunities you're missing. I often will tell Marines that the true genius of Marines is not in their individual capacity as warfighters. And some of them get offended at first. And what I then have to explain is that it's really not about you being an army. I think I'm hearing somebody's audio. Okay. It's not about you being an army of one. It's not about your genius as a warfighter, but about the way that Marines train as a fire team, and about the way that you train to synergize around taking the enemy out. That's the true genius of Marines from what I've seen. If you get a group of Marines together, there are very few enemies they can't take out, including those that they fight in their mental warfare. So this idea of your tribe helping you see things that you don't see, giving you a source of strength and fuel that you can pull from that you would not otherwise have on your own, and also giving you the tough feedback you need to see opportunities that you might not see otherwise becomes really critical. And then let's go ahead and get to the application. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I want to give you something really practical to do with this Power Hour talk, to leave you with a real tool that you can use, which is to identify 3 people in your tribe. Now let's talk about what tribe means for a second. So the concept of tribe is not something that Caucasian people like me, came up with. It's a long and honored term to symbolize in the Native American culture and other, cultures that have long been in existence, what it means to have a group of people that you form an interdependent relationship to survive with. Sebastian Junger, in his book Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging, popularized the term in a way that moves beyond just tribal groups as they were classically seen to the concept of warriors and people that fight together towards a common end, fight alongside each other towards a common end. And he defines tribe as the people that you would share the last of your food with. So if you're running out of food, we could maybe substitute toilet paper. I think in California, there was a huge rush on toilet paper. Maybe it's the people you would share the last of your toilet paper with to preserve their dignity as much as your own. So that's Sebastian's definition of tribe. And I like that definition, but I would add to it that your tribe is the people that you take your armor off with, and that you are vulnerable with, and that you talk about your challenges with in a full expectation of confidence that they will have your back, that they will see the best in you no matter what the challenge is, that they will stand behind you, that they will have your back, and that they will help you move in that direction. So with those two definitions, in mind, identify 3 people in your tribe. Ask yourself just privately whether you've stayed in good contact with them over the past few months. Because if you haven't, getting back in contact with them and creating a battle rhythm where you stay in contact with them, I can guarantee you'll pay $0 for this, and it will improve your mental wellness. Your tribe is a source of mental wellness, and connection with them is what helps you thrive. So if you haven't stayed in good contact with them, this is going to be a cost-free intervention right now to help you feel more capable and able to move on the challenges in your life. If you could go to the next slide. It's probably slide 6 there.
Hold on, Doc. Hold on. Let me pull this other piece up, because I think while I was doing that, we'll go for the last part of the bottom here.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. All right. So there we are under practical actions to take. And the second piece to this is commit to circling up with them every week for at least half an hour, preferably 60 minutes for the next 10 weeks. I want you to put a reminder in your phone when you think about who that tribe is, those 3 people are. It would be cool if they know each other. That would be a bonus, that you could do it as kind of a group call. But if you need to do 3 individual 30-minute calls, or kind of, split it up in whatever ways, if they don't know each other, that's another way to do it. The point is, put a reminder in your phone for the next 10 weeks to connect with them in an intentional way. And then when you have your first meeting or meetings with them, I want you to brainstorm 2 opportunities that would advance important goals for each of you in spite of, or perhaps because of, the current situation that you face. Now, I promised you an example, so I'm going to give you that. So the impact of COVID-19 has been substantial on my career in 2 directions. First, it's been really challenging to launch a book in the context of COVID-19. Nobody wants to talk about really anything but COVID-19. So the signal to noise ratio in terms of trying to get out ideas I've developed for 10 years has been really challenging. Amazon is broken a lot of the time. Books don't go out. There's massive delays. Post office doesn't work. I had a box of books that were signed, stolen out of the mail and resold. People are desperate. It's been a really challenging time. All of the speaking engagements that I had lined up, conferences, keynotes, whatever, all canceled because of COVID-19. And so, at first it was kind of like a pronounced negative impact during a time when I really wanted to bring forward this really important work that I had been doing in partnership with so many warriors for 10 years. So I had to reckon with that directly, as I'm telling you to do. I had to really think about what those challenges were, what opportunities I lost because of COVID that I had to kind of reckon with directly and address head on, maybe grieve in some cases, those missed opportunities, and then pick myself back up and think about how I could red team this a little bit with some help from some trusted folks. And so one of the things that I realized in that process is that right now everybody's conferences are canceled, and all of those other sort of high level speakers and people that would be out there doing conferences are not doing that work because nobody is. So it's a great leveler. And what I'd been doing for many years for the NFL Foundation, for the Boeing Foundation, for other training entities is doing virtual trainings for many years. And so I thought, wow, well, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm very comfortable at doing virtual trainings. This is an opportunity for me. So I was fortunate enough to be linked up some months ago with a gentleman named Mike Humphrey. He has in the past been the speaker's rep for Desmond Tutu and Oprah Winfrey and other people that we all know. And he kind of said, I think, you've got something here, but we need to develop this. And then COVID happened. And now, in the context of that, he's going to be launching some virtual things that I'm doing as far as speaking engagements that really, the world will not accept public speakers in a kind of face-to-face capacity because of health reasons, but that's where I think the need is. So I know that Doc Bowen is also building out a lot of virtual teaching and training. I think this is the time for that to come forward. These kinds of things, and I'll be doing this as well. I also kind of pivoted and developed something called redefineyourmission.com because as a psychologist, I'm aware that there are many people whose trust has been so utterly broken that they will not seek mental health because of that. And so there needed to be something other than just saying, what's wrong with you? Seek mental health. Let's overcome stigma. Go and get help if you need it. And so I created an online bundle of strategies and solutions based on my book that will be something in between nothing and expecting people to walk in the door of a mental health clinic. And that's what redefineyourmission.com is about. So it's basically not so much focused on the corporate audience as maybe some of the work that Doc Bowen is doing, but really focused on understanding mental warfare, particularly for our military veterans, warriors, first responders, medical providers, healthcare workers on the front lines, and others that are constructed with a warrior identity. So there's been these opportunities for me to grow and do a lot of work around the trauma work I'd been doing by applying it to COVID and helping people develop insights that I never would have had if COVID hadn't happened. I'm not wishing COVID on anybody here. It's been time of tremendous challenge, but there are always opportunities if we can appreciate the things that are maybe right in front of us. And so I want you in your first meeting with your fire team, with your tribe, to brainstorm a couple opportunities that are going to advance important goals for each of you in spite of or because of the current situation that we're all facing. Who is available that wasn't before? Where are people getting information that they weren't before? How is the world now being pushed to change and evolve? And who will see that before it happens, and who will get on top of that and move in synchrony with that? Those are the kinds of questions we can be asking ourselves. Now, Doc Bowen asked me to leave some time for question and answer. So the last thing I wanted to say is that, if you want to learn more about my work, my book, Warrior: How to Support Those Who Protect Us, is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and every place else that you can find a book. If you do read it, I'd love it if you could post a positive review. That would help me get the word out in a time where it's been really hard to get a book off. So don't buy it if you're not interested, but if you're interested, I love that kind of support, and as well in helping me get the word out in any other creative ways that you'd be willing through social media or opportunities like this one where I get to talk about my work are greatly appreciated. Let me stop there and Dr. Bowen, let's open it up for some conversation.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc Springer. You have sprung some awareness, and I've been checking out some of the comments folks are sharing. So we're just going to open it up. And before anyone asks, I will answer 3 questions. The first question, yes, I'm going to post that PDF in the social lifestyle community group so everybody can have it and you can follow along with those. Yes, it's going to have the contact information for Doc Springer so you can reach out to her personally so you don't have to use anyone else. And yes, you can get a chance to reach out, talk to, work with, and do whatever you need to do or refer anyone you can that might have, mental issues. And here's the truth. Since I say mental issues, but it's trauma. Since COVID, because I like to make light of everything funny. That's how I deal with it, with humor. Since COVID, we all have mental issues. And the trauma has affected us differently. But without any further ado, I'm so excited. We get to open up the floor. If there's any questions, raise your hands. You're welcome. Thank you so much. I'm seeing it all in there. Raise your hand. But for right now, let's go to gallery. And if everyone can join me, get on camera. Let's give Doc Springer a round of applause because this was some awesome, powerful information. And you can see why I love her so much. So it's really, 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 really cool. So any questions? Doc Springer is up. I see Vinny is already raising his hands. So Vinny, you're up first.
Hello, Doc Springer. I actually don't have a question. I'm actually just want to say thank you so very much, particularly for the military, but more importantly, the Marines that you represent. As you know, it's so hard, and I've seen it so hard for Marines to open up about what's troubling them and to have somebody who can really dig down into the root of what's going on is so important. And also, as you know, there used to be so much of a stigma, for Marines in particular to go see a psychologist or anything. And as Dr. O said, there's that trust that has been built with you, as I've heard, and, some others that are out there. And that's what's definitely needed, because although we're not in as many situations as we have been in the past, there's still so many things that are traumatizing individuals. And again, I just so appreciate what you have been doing and what you are doing. So thank you again.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Vinny. One of the things I've definitely learned is that the first story that you hear is not the one you need to understand. That's another entire talk, but that process of building that trust has really been an evolution for me from the time when I first came in as Dr. Springer and, probably had too many years in school and thought I knew what I knew. And really, it was a process of laying aside what I thought I knew and letting Marines and others train me up and listening for, as you said, the hidden pain that's locked 10 layers below in the vault that you'll never hear if you don't build the trust.
Right.
So thank you. That means a great deal to me.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So it's free for all because we only have about 15 minutes before Doc Springer has to go. So here's the deal. With the fires and the smokes and everything going, bring your questions on. So who has a question for Doc? I'm checking out. You can raise your hands or unmute and ask or type it in the comments. I'm scrolling over. Okay, I see Fasana. Go ahead, Fasana.
Dr. Springer, that was an incredible conversation. So thank you for delivering that to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My question is, so you mentioned this fire team. This is a concept that I've been exercising in my life without having the military lingo. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
My question is, how many people would you recommend having within your fire squad or fire team?
Yeah, so the fire team, as Doc Bowen knows so well, is a group of typically 4 Marines that train together. And those are, they work in synergy to accomplish the same goal. There's a concept as well of a QRF, a quick reaction force that responds, when a fire team gets in trouble. In the Army, it's more of a core unit. And I just did something yesterday for Forbes Ignite where we really had to change the lingo. And for more of a civilian audience, I will talk about your pit crew, kind of using a NASCAR analogy. So here's the thing, in terms of how many people, usually if you have 3 other people in your life that you can really deeply trust, it's wonderful if they know each other, if you're lucky enough that you all kind of share that trust with each other. Sometimes you can forge that with those people that you deeply trust by having them build that trust and getting to know each other. But even if they don't know each other, having 3 different people in your life to get different perspectives from, that will have your back, that will allow you to draw from their strength, that will bring those perspectives to you, is usually sufficient for people in terms of a lot of things that we get stuck on. The concept of a pit crew, though, is helpful as a more extended concept. So I talk about, I don't think of myself as their doc as necessarily being part of their fire team. Some of them might say that I am, and that's an honor, but I kind of naturally feel like I drop into an advisor role for many of the Marines and warriors I serve, and corporate leaders as well. And my hope is to become a trusted extension of their fire team, which is more the greater kind of idea of a pit crew. And so you think about a pit crew as like a group of people that all have a different function, and they all work together to kind of get that racing machine back on the road. So if you think about your pit crew, you could think about, having a multiplicity of people that bring different perspectives, and those people that you need in your life that are a well-rounded group of supporters from different walks and different, spaces in your life. And so again, they don't have to know each other. It's great if some of them do, but it's a useful exercise, I think, to go through the process of thinking about the gaps in where you might need support and mentoring from people in your life that could offer unique perspectives that you'd value. So doing the mental exercise of really thinking that through has been helpful to me, and I'd suggest it as something potentially helpful to all of you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, Martin.
Awesome. So I think
Martin.
Martin had a question. Thank you so much for Sana and Doc. Martin, what's your question, buddy?
Hello, Doc Obama.
Hello.
Thank you, Doc, for your talk today. Unfortunately, I'm driving, but I was listening intently the whole time. So, thank you so much. There was some great information there about anxiety of the unknown, and especially in times like today, was really important information to have right now. So going on, continuing with this pit crew, the fire, the red team. So would you say a pit crew is a larger group, and then maybe a close crew is that 3 or 4 people that you were talking about?
Yes, exactly. So speaking of stressors, as I'm being interrupted by my Echo, my Amazon Alexa device, to tell me to get my 6-year-old on Zoom. Yes, exactly, Martin. The fire team is that close group of people, and that you would trust with your life, almost sort of psychologically, or if not physically. The really close kitchen cabinet of people, to Doc Bowen, that would be Anna, and others that he just really is tight with. And then the pit crew is, yes, one step removed. Do you have a well-rounded and diverse group of individuals that support you, that you hold trust with, that have different perspectives, that are valuable to you and helping you grow? And are you helping other people in the same way? Every time I say, what are you receiving? We got to think about, what are we giving, and whose pit crew are we on? Who are we building up and equipping in that way? Because it should be reciprocal, and it should be spread out.
Yeah, thank you for saying about the reciprocal, but also it's almost as if it's also a pay it forward type of a thing. What someone gives for you is a gift for you, that you're supposed to pass on to someone else.
Mhm. Yep.
So yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Philip.
Love it. So great one. So now we have Mr. Phillip, and I just want to say a disclaimer for who put it in the comment. It's true. Sarah is our pit crew. So I love you guys. So thank you for that, Samira. And now Philip, all the way from Hawaii, Doc. So he's having spring and
Right.
sunshine.
All
here.
right. Hi, Philip.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning. I'm gonna try to condense my thought and my question quickly. It was a little hard for me to come on this meeting today because my dad was a Marine in Desert Storm, and after the war, I never saw him again. And I just want to thank you for the work you do, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't have my experience because of the work that you did. It's kind of hard for me to get that out, but I got to get that out this morning. My question is,
Thank you, Philip.
yeah. As a leader, if you're dealing with somebody either in your pit crew or in your fire team that has trauma that you can't necessarily relate to, what would be your advice to being able to keep those people close to you and try to work with them and still lead through something that you don't understand?
Yeah. So, as a person, I think I can answer that from the frame of someone who has not served in the military myself. I would never want to represent that I have. And so one of the things that is a gap in terms of understanding and trust is sometimes really, how can a person who has not served really deeply understand the experiences of someone who's made life and death decisions, who has been in the combat theater? And to that, I would say that often in my experience as a psychologist who walks with warriors, it's not sort of that I have this insight that really helps to grow the people that I support, but that I can offer a level of radical empathy and honesty in terms of the human condition of suffering. And I can open up a space for them to feel and express whatever they need to feel or express, and be fully confident that I will not react with shock or horror or fear or lack of confidence in my ability to walk with them through whatever trauma they've been through. And so I think sometimes we sort of feel a pressure to give a gift to someone in terms of an insight, or yes, I can identify. I can't really identify with being in combat. I've been learning some things about shooting weapons, but I'm terrible compared to most of the people I work with. But I don't need to be good. What I need to be is radically safe and brave in my own way, and able to listen without any judgment, in sort of this radically safe space that I can create. And you can create that safe space for people as well. And so the way to do that is to really communicate, not just with your words, but with your actions, that there's nothing that you can say to me that would make me judge you in any way that would make you feel smaller, that I will always respect who you are and confer dignity in my interactions with the people I walk with. One of the other sort of phrases that's key to who I am and how I operate, in addition to when we connect, we survive, is that trust outranks rank. Trust outranks rank. And so in my having been in school for so long, there are people that will enter the relationship from a position of communicating that they rank above somebody that they're supporting. And I really don't think that's helpful, and I don't want to perpetuate that. So for me, you enter every relationship, maybe neutral, maybe with a deficit of trust, and your goal is to build that trust so that the person that you are relating to knows that you're radically safe and they can count on you to be solid and steady for the challenges that come up for them. It's really not about what you say. It's really about that gift of radical safe space and honesty that you can offer to the people in their lives. And, based on what you just shared about that was a vulnerable thing that you just shared about thanking me for the service that I offer in my way. And also for reflecting that it was hard for you to share that. And that's what motivates me, is, really knowing that this work has an impact. And I think that because you did that, you should be able to offer that to other people, because you just showed us that you're able to do the hard thing and be vulnerable and talk about what's true and what's real for you. So I commend you for that and honor that.
Thank you.
I love it, because when you share, Philip, thank you so much, Doc, as well. When you shared that, both Annie and I got all teary-eyed and ball up over here, you just went straight to the heart. So
Yep.
It was very powerful on top of the question you asked, because you're a deep thinker, and when something like that is able to come out, I'm extremely happy that this was able to be a space to help you bring that out finally. And now I know on other levels, we can relate with so many other things, and you need help or guidance or support in that arena. I'm always here. And obviously, as I said, I'm going to post the PDF in the group so everyone can look at it to connect with Doc Springer afterwards. And now, later, and further down the road, you can get support. You follow a lot of her work. It's amazing. So you guys, everyone here just got a taste, a sliver of the pie today. And the pie was so good. It's the Doc Springer pie. I'm loving it. But, we're going to close out here for a bit. Let's give another round of applause for Doc Springer, because it's so amazing to have, someone of her caliber and focus. And when I say focus, it's in the focus of her disciplined work that she does that has helped so many individuals. And, Doc Springer and I got to know each other from one of my first young mentees I was working with when he was 17 years old, that is now a first sergeant in the Marine Corps, which is next to the rank that Vinny got. So I groomed him from a baby to now be in the second highest position as an enlisted member. And the first time he talked to me about her, he's like, I got this. Like, I trust her, man. That's how he's like, I trust her, man. I want you to check out some of the stuff she's doing and give me your feedback. So I look at it, I was like, wow, there's a lot of psychology in here, and she's actually understands us. He's like, yeah, man. So he told me, it's like, she's in my circle, and I want to know if, you'd like to, like, bring her into our circle. I'm like, dude, yeah, sure. And from day one to now, I have only fallen deeper in love with the character of Doc Springer. And like I said earlier, it's Vinny, it's kind of like Anna and Doc Springer. That's like those three people right there, because
share space with
right?
her.
Anna will share space, but she gets it. So now that you know that I've told y'all I have cool friends, you see it. See, Shane is not cool. She's now on the freezing level. Doc Springer is frozen. She's up there. She's so cool. Right. So with that being said, hopefully that coolness can put out the fire where she's not locally. Doc, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we close out here, there's two things I want to do. But before those two things, I would love, Doc, if you can share any last minute closing pieces, and then I'm going to share our two admin notes, and then we're out of here. Any last minute things you want to share?
Yeah, I want to go back to what Philip said so that we really take this in. So what I mean when I say that is leadership is that you started with, I've suffered, in a way that gave space for other people to express their own suffering and be vulnerable. And then I watch, the chat, and somebody else here says, my dad was in the Marine Corps. I know where you're coming from. Somebody else says, respect, Philip. The ability to create that space, you already have it. You already just showed that you have it. And to treat other people with respect and hear all of their experiences, which may be very different from our own, in that respectful frame is exactly what we can offer. That's the gift. And you already just showed that you have it. So just wanted to kind of reinforce what you said, Doc Bowen, and thanks everyone for having me today. Enjoyed connecting with you and getting to know you a little bit.
Awesome. So another round of applause, and we will keep this celebration going. So now, Doc, you can get to see what a cat choir looks like. We will use our Asera cat choir to sing happy birthday to our birthday girl of the day, Miss Swati. It's her birthday. So on 3, where you at, Swati? You better get on camera, girl. So we're going to sing her happy birthday on 3, 2, 1. Let me highlight her. Let me highlight her real quick. Miracle is already singing. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
Swati.
dear
Swati.
Happy birthday to you.
Miracle says, I'm going to do it again. Happy birthday.
Okay.
You do it again.
birthday.
You sing it. Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Okay, so happy birthday to Swati. We just went over time a little bit. Last bit I'll show is tomorrow, we're almost on the same topic, back by popular demand, is Miss Umara. And Umara will be sharing on the topic similar how to, and listen, her story was so powerful. You guys know it. You love it. She'll be back by popular demand. And I can't wait to see and be in her training again tomorrow. But Doc Springer, I wouldn't say you're the best. You know you're the best. You're the coolest around all. So as we close off, we give Doc some love, everybody. We love you, appreciate you. Thank you so much. If there's anything or any way we can be of help or support to you, let us know. I know Doc was so modest in saying if you don't think that you might have that pull or attraction to the book, don't get it. Here's my ask. Get the book, because if it's not for you, someone else in your life that you know that will be able to help her. I will post the PDF in the group so you guys can actually click and get the link and get the book. But it's an awesome book. I've read the book. I have not, though, however, post something positive. So I will, Doc. I forgot about that part. But thank you for saying that. So I've been bad. Now I'll be great by posting something on there. So with that, guys, thank you all so much for supporting. Thanks again, Doc Springer.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Everybody tomorrow and at 3 p.m. for Q&A. Bye for now, all.
Thanks.